Hello everyone. Today I want to showcase a small application that I created. The application is called Black Box Solution. The idea behind is that anonymously you can drop a suggestion and then you are able to track it with a suggestion ID. So this can be useful in organizations where they want suggestions to be dropped in without a person having to declare his identity, right? So that idea, I took that idea and I developed it. And in a short span of time, I was able to spin up components using Azure's infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, and I was able to bring up this application. So this video is just highlighting the technical aspects of this particular application. Before we dive in into the technical details, I just wanted to showcase how the application will work. So this is the front page and it is very simple HTML and CSS. And every time you refresh, you'll get a new quote about suggestions, right? So if we click on Dropbox, there are two options here. One is you can enter a new suggestion. And second is if you have entered a previous suggestion, then you can track it. So enter a suggestion, let's say I would like to see more town halls. Well, who does? But let's go with that option. Drop suggestions. There you go. So the back end, I'll just go into more details later. But it generated a suggestion ID. Now, since this is an application where you don't have to reveal your identity, we are not tracking it via a login ID and password because that would mean the user will think that their identity is getting stored somewhere at the back end, which is true. So now if I take this ID and just try to track it, so it can tell me, what has happened, whether more comments have been added to it or not, right? And at the same time, what is happening is all the stakeholders who want to be notified of a new suggestion, they will get an email. So this is an example of that email. And the reason it is coming in tags is that they will be able to reply to it using email only. So they won't have to sign into any particular application. Stakeholders will be just able to log in and then let them know what has happened, what kind of developments have taken place. So every time you reply, it'll add that comment to the database, right? So a very simple, small application. Now let's dive into more technical details. So this is the process flow which I have already discussed. So this is starting of the application. Someone drops a suggestion. There's a process engine that is running. It's updating the database. A new suggestion has come in, and then at the same time, it also sends out an email to the decisions maker. Decision maker can send a reply to the email, which is again update the database. So pretty straightforward. All right. So let's jump into the technical architecture. This is a small diagram depicting the Azure infrastructure layout and how the pieces are connected together. So these are the users who will be interacting with the web page. And this web page is a Azure single page static website. So this interacts with the function app, which works as the main or the core engine, interacting and sending triggers to other applications. So we'll look at the function app in detail. It's an HTTP trigger app which can respond to API calls via the single web page, and it interacts directly with the Cosmos DB, right? For sending email, we are using something called as logical apps, which is again drag and drop way of programming, and it uses an API connection. So they are providing a lot of different sort of API connections, exposing a lot of different services that way. And what we are doing is we are using that to send an email, right? Everything on the development side of things, there is an automated CI/CD that is provided by Azure. So as soon as you push your code to GitHub, it can directly deploy that. Um, so this is the CI/CD part of Azure I was talking about. As soon as you push your code to GitHub repo, there are built-in actions that will trigger and push the code to Azure. So that makes things a little easier. You get version control as well as uh, you know just prevents you typing multiple commands that way. So we will leave this thing alone. We already went through this one. Next thing I wanted to show was the logical app designer. So this is the logical app where I'm just sending an HTTP URL, and after reading the HTTP, it sort of acts like a webhook in that case. Based on the HTTP request, so that's a trigger point, and it's just send out an email then. Moving on to the database side of things, so this is the Cosmos database, and it has two collections: comments collections and suggestion collections. It's a NoSQL database, so it's if you have seen, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing more to it. How I have laid out the fields is that there is a suggestion and a suggestion ID that is created, and there's a comment ID that is created. So if you go to the comment collection, have uh, multiple comments corresponding to one suggestion ID, for example, this particular, so that you can then chain your comments. And when you're retrieving them, you can order them via the comment date and timestamp. And the user can see the progress that is happening. So very straightforward. These are the different components that gets created when you're creating an application like that. So for example, logical app will get created, and then logical app will create its API connection that it uses to send out an email. Similarly, this is the database, and then static web app. The good part about this is the configuration options that are provided on the left hand side. uh, so a lot of things you can control not by configuration or by JSON files that we are normally used to, but you can come down here and then can make changes during the runtime without the need of a deployment. So that makes life a little bit easier. So the last thing that I wanted to share was the function app. So this is the function app, and these are the HTTP triggers. They get called from the front end via API, and once you the data is updated at the end, that's when the logical apps are called via the webhook. So this was just a small example of how quickly you can use the components that are provided by Azure to spin up a full stack application. And with some configuration options, you can easily handle the complicated part of integrations like sending out emails and calling webhooks, integrating your front end, your web app, and making sure those configurations options are laid out properly. I enjoyed developing the application and exploring what cloud has to offer. Again, same components are almost available in all the different places like GCP and AWS as well. Uh, do leave comments what you are doing with cloud and how you are using those different components, whether it's easier or whether you prefer going with the coding route. Thanks for watching.